If it was your son, how would you feel? Would you want justice? Me and my family, we want justice. You gotta hear us. All y'all gotta hear us. You know why you gotta hear us? You gotta hear us because we ain't going nowhere. You gonna have to kill us all.
My bitch, she hit like a pit of red nose, red bone. Purse like heavy with that two-tone, pearl and chrome. The red bottoms with them French tips on them 10 toes. With the power to open and close doors. If ever I should fall or fail, got the lawyer and bail. My mama ain't gonna spend one night in jail.
Yeah, Mr. Yinny Ye, Willie Bo, rest in peace. They killed my little cousin Willie while he sleep in the car. While they taking from his family, he was seeking the stars. Police brutality and took it too far. 50 or more bullets somehow riddled his core. 25 hit him, this time justice gon' get him. That's why some brothers arm up and blow with him. Vallejo PD can pay, we ain't screaming the will. Racist pigs in the chair and have them screaming to death. It was cold-blooded murder like a firing squad. Serve and protect what you lie to us for. I'm nervous when you stop me, put the lights on my core. I don't know if you gon' pop me, it's just my wife in my car. Black and you don't like me, put a knife in my car. Spray mace in my eyes and hit my wife in the jaw. If you're proud to be black, put your fist in the air. It's time to fight back, put the system in gear. 911, I should be calling my dog. They some real street hogs, just like all of y'all. It's bound to be a brawl, somebody getting mauled. Holding court in the streets cause you got badges and cars.
Everything in this world has a time you have but you ought to be ashamed of yourself. Because this impacts every last one of us. Everything in this world has a time. I listen to you talk about your $100 million. For a police station. But I promise you this much. This problem with police brutality that is disproportionately impacting the African American and Latino community. They're coming for you too. Don't be mistaken. They're coming for you too. And I give a pledge to Willie McCoy's family right now.
Thank you, sister.
I'll be here.
Thank you, sister.
This is the Rabbit Hole Multimedia Network, and this is a segment of Fuck Shit. So you all know that a new video came out on my cousin, Willie McCoy. And me and my cousin, since this incident has happened and Willie was murdered, we've come in contact with all of the new evidence that's been shown and everything that's come across, information that's come across through the attorneys and everything. And this is what we come up with to call out a lot of fuck shit in my little cousin's case. Listen to this. Lawless policing is a nationwide problem, especially in black and brown communities. It is upstanding and admirable to speak up, rally, and protest for police murders of Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and many others. Did you know there is and has been an epidemic of police brutality taking place right here in Vallejo, California? 19 Vallejo police murders in the last decade and countless acts of unnecessary violence perpetrated on residents of Vallejo, California. Did you know that the Vallejo, California Police Department has the highest rate of police shootings in Northern California and the third highest rate in the state? On February 9th, 2019, the real fuck shit jumped off. My little cousin Willie McCoy, who was 5 weeks shy of his 21st birthday, he was executed by 6 Vallejo police officers. When he was shot at 55 times in 3.5 seconds as he sat asleep behind the wheel of his car in the drive-thru of a Taco Bell. Allegedly, Willie had a gun on his lap. A gun that has never been seen in any video or otherwise. Fuck shit.
Shootings and $15 million paid out in recent lawsuits, all stemming from one agency, Vallejo Police.
Chief Shawnee Williams took over the department almost a year ago, and he sat down with KTVU's Evan Cernovsky to talk about what he says he's doing to try to reform the police department and also rebuild community trust.
Chief, there's been
19 police killings in the last 10 years in Vallejo. Is that something that is acceptable to you?
Let me first start by saying any loss of life is tragic, and it requires us to do a thorough investigation. I am committed to transparency and accountability, especially when it involves a loss of life. One of the things that we want to do is to reform our department so that we can do better, and that our mission is to protect and save. And so that's what we're focused on.
Since becoming chief, Williams has instituted a suite of reforms that are best practices in modern policing. They banned controversial chokeholds. There's now a mandatory body-worn camera activation policy and a clearly defined de-escalation policy.
Part of what you're talking about in the reforms are reforming policy. But if people don't follow policy, how can you ensure the public that there's accountability and discipline?
That's a great question, Evan. So if you look at my track record, I believe in strong accountability. And it's my job as chief to hold our people accountable. But you have to have the oversight, you have to have the policy, but then you have to have good supervision.
Of the 19 officers who used deadly force, none were ever criminally charged by the DA's office. In many of the cases, Internal Affairs recommended simply retraining. Williams said he's working to implement 45 reforms recommended back in May by independent auditors called the OIR Group. On their list, adopting independent oversight and holding community meetings after police shootings.
Chief, you mentioned the OIR report. Something stood out to me in that, and it was that many officers have an us against the world mentality. Aren't the police tasked? Aren't they hired to protect the community?
So I certainly appreciate the OIR report. We need to do a self-assessment. We need to be receptive to scrutiny so that we can improve. We want to engage with our community. That's what we're doing.
Since taking over as chief, Williams has sought to fire at least one officer who was involved in 2 fatal shootings.
When corrective action is needed, I will take those corrective actions. I've made recommendations for termination for officers that are not complying with our policy, and I will continue to do that.
The chief hopes to rebuild trust as violent crime is surging in Vallejo. There have been more than 200 shootings and 22 homicides so far this year. Violence not seen since the mid-90s.
Part of stopping violent crime is solving crimes. And if the community doesn't have a buy-in with the police department, it makes it very difficult.
I believe in community policing. I believe in partnerships. So we're forming partnerships with people like the NAACP, with Common Ground, with the Undivided, with Dr. Quick and the clergy and people in the city of Vallejo that at the grassroots level is addressing those underlying causes.
Do you know what the clearance rate is this year for the 22 homicides?
Yes.
What is it?
36%.
That's abysmally low compared to, say, San Francisco that had over 70%. One year had 100% clearance rate. Is that indicative of the lack of participation by the community in helping solve some of these cases?
It is low. 36% is low. Do we want 100%? Absolutely. Do we want our homicide rate to be a lot lower than what it is? Absolutely.
Earlier this month, the department announced Operation Peace, a community policing initiative that seeks to engage with residents and ultimately help reduce and solve crime. But for civil rights groups and family members of people killed by police, the chief isn't doing enough.
It's outrageous.
Adante Pointer represents the families of several people who have been fatally shot by Vallejo police.
I don't think there's going to be real reform there with piecemeal and kind of half-hearted movement. It's going to take bold action. It's going to take completely, in my opinion, kicking out all the bad actors and all the enablers in order for there to be the chance of a new day in Vallejo.
Welcome back to Fuck Shit. I'm your host, David D. Harrison, and I'll be picking back where I left off about my little cousin Willie. So again, let me reiterate, Willie was shot. He was shot at 55 times in 3.5 seconds as he was behind his wheel in his car in the drive-thru at Taco Bell. Allegedly, Willie had a gun on his lap that has never been seen in any video or otherwise. Willie was hit with 38 bullets, 13 of them fatal. For the record, Willie was shot awake. That being said, there are 6 different body cam videos and the alleged gun can't be seen in any one of them. Now that's fuck shit, everybody. Believe that's fuck shit. Okay? Point it out. The body cam footage, you can't on this night, officers Brian Glick, badge number 672, Mark Thompson, badge number 621, Colin Eaton, badge number 703, Jordan Patzer, badge number 713, Anthony Romero Cano, badge 714, and Ryan McMahon, badge number 702. All participated in a VPD blood oath ritual, a tradition in which a group of rogue officers who run amok with no consequences or accountability. This tradition is known as badge bending. That's the real fuck shit. I'll see you on fuck shit and give you another recount of it.
With that two-tone, pearl and chrome. For those that don't know what we're talking about when we're mentioning badge bending, recently there was an article released by Open Vallejo that identified several officers within the Vallejo Police Department that bent the tips of their pointed badges after they registered a kill. And so let's take that and let's talk about what happened in Vallejo this week. On Wednesday of this past week, something that is very close to our family, our loved one, our brother, Willie McCoy, who was murdered February 9th, 2019. The uncut video, body cam video, there were 9 new videos that were released uncut. And before I get to you, cousins, I want to get to the lady to my left. It's been wonderful spending the day with you, sister. I want to tell you that. But we about to get into some things that you have been speaking on at City Hall. You have been on the road speaking at venues about your younger brother, our younger brother. And I know that I want to let the people know that you have never watched a second of the video, uncut or otherwise, but knowing from myself and other family members what transpires in these videos, what is one of the first things that you just like to speak on about the video coming out this week that shows even more clearly that still no gun, still asleep. That part. Still asleep. Is there anything that family or you heard about this week that kind of maybe confirmed some of the feelings that you already had, sister?
Well, I don't know what time it was. I know my brother, our little brother, called and told me don't watch it. Sister, don't watch it. Don't watch it.
Our younger brother, Lewis.
Mm-hmm. And he started telling they just snatched him out the car. Says you just gotta, don't watch it, sis. Don't watch it. Don't watch it. So I started calling everybody, making sure the kids was okay, because I didn't know who had seen it already. I called Deidre, my daughter, and she hung up the phone on me and instantly went and watched it and was just like, Mom, there's no gun, there's no gun, there's no gun. They said literally, and I've heard this numerous times, that they said it's only one shot. He only got one shot. So if it was a one shot, why was they so threatened? Why did it have 6 officers to be so threatened of their life from one bullet?
Right. And
if a bullet was going to be, if he was able to shoot or anything like that, I'm just saying, if he was going to do something, nobody's life was threatened in harm's way for anything, for them to, for 55 bullets, casings that they found that they trying to say, there's no telling how many bullets my brother took for them.
They say 38.
But all I'm on that, it was this one person who said he didn't feel nothing. He went peacefully, and she showed me how my little brother was, looking. She said that one bullet that went through his chest.
Yes.
That was the one that just took his last breath, and she told me that. And so when my cousin called me and was like, "Sis, you could see all the bullet holes in his body when they was pulling him out the car, and they was still trying to do CPR and to stupid person didn't know how to do CPR. So they was like something, and then Officer Darton, I guess you all get back to that one, was trying to tell them to continue doing CPR, but don't do CPR or some old bull crap. It just make me want to watch it because that man sat in my face. He looked at me dead in my face and told me.
So let me before I kick it back to the cousins to get their take on what they saw in the newly released video. So you mentioned Darden. Officer Darden, Officer Steve Darden. Let me kind of let the people know this is a member of Vallejo's Fatal 14. He is probably one of the most decorated members of the Fatal 14. And what my sister was referring to as far as it pertains to what happened to our younger brother Willie is in some of these videos that were released this week. You can see where Officer Darden gathered up officers into what I would into what we would call a football huddle of some sort, and he was basically quarterbacking the plan. Told them to turn off cameras, turn off sound, and he was quarterbacking the crime scene. Now, the reason why my sister brought up Officer Darden with such disdain is we're going to share a little bit of history about our younger brother as it pertains to Officer Darden. After my younger brother, her younger brother, our younger brother, Willie, after he lost both his parents by the age of 12, he went to live with my sister Charmel. Right here, my sister. And Willie was rebelling a lot. Would you say, sis?
Yeah, and he was he was just doing his thing in football. And everybody
most definitely.
He was making all the plays. The team was winning and everything, but Willie Graves wasn't what.
And so what I would like you to speak on, sis, is let's let the people know what we're getting at, folks, is when these officers say they don't know who Willie was, it's a zip damn lie. And Officer Darden had a direct relationship with our younger brother, and there was a specific time outside of the times he came to pick up Willie for midnight basketball at Vallejo High School.
When Willie tried to run away from home.
Yes.
And,
speak on it, sis.
When my mama was alive, let's get that straight. No, right, sorry. When my mama first had passed away, but they still was living over there at the house.
Yes.
And Willie tried to run away. Officer Darton was the one that chased Willie down and helped us put him in the backseat of my car. That's when I drove him to my house to Rancho.
Yeah.
So Darden, when he...
And so... What we want the people to know is that the recently promoted Officer Darden, the new police chief, Shawnee Williams, one of the first acts he did as chief was to promote Sergeant Darden to lieutenant. So we have a man with the history of brutality, as well as he's killed some people in his time as a Vallejo police officer. Let's not get it twisted. This is one of the more violent ringleaders of the Fatal 14. He clearly was quarterbacking and coordinating what was going on at the crime scene. He absolutely 100% had a relationship with little Willie. Yeah, we want everyone to know that.
When Willie had put them 12 holes in my wall, instead of them taking him to juvenile hall, Darden used to come pick him up on the weekends. And you know, help him out and keep him from getting a little angry and all that little stuff. And he used to come out there.
And sis,
I forgot his name. Monteros.
The other officer.
Yeah, his partner.
And I can even remember a time during the time that Willie was with you. You did not want to let him go to the football game. Mm-hmm. And yeah, Willie was a hell of an athlete. And they wanted him. They didn't really care about him, but they needed him for the team. Was it the Raiders?
He played for the Raiders, and he played for the what's the other team?
It was in the Pop Warner.
Whatever. But Jesse Bethel was looking at him because he had a couple of scouts looking for him.
But I remember specifically you sharing with me
mm-hmm.
back then that
he should not go
that
play.
Willie was effing up on his grades. Mm-hmm. And they came literally to your front door. Officer Darden and his
Coach
partner,
D, yep.
and Coach D.
Coach D, he worked for San Quentin. He was a correction officer at San Quentin, and they coach.
And they were like, "We got him, Will," and you kind of resisted,
I told him, nope. He better sit his butt on that bench and wash some helmets and do whatever at the end of the game. He bet not play the game, and they still let his butt play the game. When he still came home with them Fs.
And so we want people to know that these officers who are acting like they didn't know who Willie was, that's a farce. Cousins, why don't you guys go ahead and chime in on that as well as what you saw in the newly released uncut video?
Well, let me add first to what Charmel was saying and what you were saying when you guys were talking about Darden. Darden's badge is bent out. You know, he's a Fatal 14. He's probably the commander. You know, but he had a relationship with Willie. Is documented. He's in and out and with Willie. So to say that they didn't know who Willie was in that car that night in the huddle that he got in with those police officers, come on. He knew who Willie was. Why would you act that way then? And why would you guys act like you couldn't get in the car when the windows busted out on the other side?
On the other side, right.
There. It was a setup.
But it was also...
And just to go back to speak on the unedited video, first of all, I was pissed the fuck off about the way that they snatched my baby cousin out of the fucking car after they had executed him by firing squad. He was dead. Okay, they snatched him out of the car like a rag doll as a part of this badge bending ritual that they're part of.
But speak on how they asked him to put his hands out the window after he was already dead.
They handcuffed him behind his back with his hands behind his back and turned him over on his back and began to pump his chest, asking for these little pieces of fucking plastic to cover up bullet holes, to seal bullet holes with. Okay, let me say something. The night that Willie was murdered by these police officers, I came right after they had did their dirty deed. I'm probably in some of the body cam footage, my cousins and I. Willie, they wouldn't let us look at Willie's body, but when we looked at what was inside of this unreleased stuff, we were looking specifically to see the gun. We still don't see the gun. They still doing parlor tricks. They want to say gun, but you don't see no gun. But just because they said it, you think that it was a gun. I had to check somebody on an article today. I mean, on a post, they posted an article speaking about the findings in about the new footage released. They were speaking to the new footage as if the new footage had showed a gun. And I said, no, it still hasn't shown a weapon. It's only hearing them say gun that there's a weapon. Okay, we can't believe nothing they say. They've been writing false police reports. They've been destroying evidence. It's been proven in the Monte Rosa case. Okay, there's a lot of things that have been have conspired throughout the history after they killed Willie, and another officer has already spoken out, speaking out in regards to Willie's case.
But how are you threatened for your life and somebody's sleep?
How crazy is it that you could be murdered? You could be murdered not just for sleeping in the car, but for anything, riding a skateboard, riding a bicycle like Ronell Foster, because some sick cop is in a gang in Vallejo and wants to get a bend in his badge to up his game inside this criminal gang.
So, cousin, I heard you just a moment ago. You mentioned Sean Monterosa's name, and I thought that might be also a good time to speak on what happened a couple days after the video of Willie was released. The city of Vallejo announced that they are looking for a change of venue in the Sean Monterosa case, and they are also looking to put a gag order on the lawyers of Sean Monterosa. Pops, what's your feeling on them trying to get a change of venue? Is that something that is even done in civil cases?
Well, it's trying to be done. The thing is what I want to elaborate on is what they're trying to put in their narratives. they're trying to, when they say gun, and no one ever seen it out of 6 body cams. No one ever saw the gun. And it seems to me that some camera would have focused on the so-called gun that was mentioned. Now, the thing is what they're using that gun thing for, and they keep elaborating on that, is to show why they did what they did when they opened fire. Now, that is trying to cover up what they did or give a narrative saying that they were right in what they did, but they never exposed the gun.
So, Pops, let me ask you this, Pops. So you brought up narrative. So my question is, why is it that when families, relatives, friends, advocates of victims of police violence speak their narratives and we speak our narratives, why is it that the city governments, at least in this case of Vallejo, feel compelled to silence us by getting a change of venue and requesting a gag order? And when we're silent after loved ones are killed, when families don't have an uprising and they sit back and they just, okay, I'm moving on with my life, the city government is totally okay with their narrative being the only narrative that's out there. But as soon as the families start speaking up for themselves, it seems as though, is this an ironic thing? What is this that now they want to try to quash families speaking with these gag orders, cousin?
Man, let me say something. Man, it's the same thing that they doing right now. They know that it's going on, that people are waking up and seeing all of these murders of young black men and women and Latino men and women. They're watching this on social media and everything. So what they doing is to make you not talk about it because they okay with it. Let's go on and keep on doing it. They got non-gathering. You can't gather anymore. People can't come together. The only way that we can come together is on the internet, right? You can't go stand in front of City Hall like that and do all that because you got different challenges now. So the thing about it is that it's all about unification and organization. It's certain rights that you have that are inalienable. And one of your rights that's inalienable is to protect your life. You have a right to defend yourself. You know what I'm saying? And in Willie's case, there was no way for him to defend himself. He was sleeping. You killed a sleeping man. What cow? And listen, if you killing sleeping men, you don't got no reason being a cop. You did that on purpose because what kind of training that a police department can give an officer that would have him kill a sleeping man?
Now, what it's doing is it's showing the complicity in it, and what they want to do is to negate the family's narrative by putting their narrative out first, because everybody seems to think that what a policeman says is right. And it's not necessarily right for the simple reason that we've shown that they've lied over and over and over again, and it shows the complicity. And the complicity does not go a trickle upward, it trickles down from the people that are in charge of these dogs. If you have a dog that goes out and bites somebody, not only do they put the dog to sleep, but they also charge you with recklessness.
Put the owner in jail.
So in essence, cousin, the
coming from the complicity upward, coming down. What they're doing.
So cousin, so in essence, these police officers that killed a sleeping man, that killed a man that was riding a bicycle, that killed a man that was in a fist fight with a family member, that killed a man that was sitting in his car smoking a cigarette. These officers were doing what they were trained to do. We simply have not been holding these wild dogs accountable and locking them and their owners up.
The owners are the ones, cuz, that are training these men to do these acts, and not only training them to do these acts, but they're also giving them fringe benefits or giving them, incentives to go out and do this type of behavior.
Right.
One of the incentives is a promotion. The other one is that I get to put a bend in my badge and I get to be known as a killer around the police station that I
it's a
feel
status
so-
thing within the gang. It's a higher status within the gang. Cousins, we're coming down the stretch right now.
We the people, we pay for this.
We pay for this. What I want to get in real quick, Cousins, is I want to bring my sister in really fast because I would like her to just share with the people an experience that happened to her about 2 months ago, as she was, as always, on the front lines of leading the fight and trying to get the word out about this police violence. And she was confronted with some of the same Vallejo police officers that we speak about on this show. And sis, what happened that night?
None of them was outside at all, period. Darton was nowhere around. Officer Williams was over there with his, they kept saying, watch Williams, because he trigger happy. He had his finger on the trigger. But they was in riot gears. They was from Georgia Street all the way down.
Did they have the tanks out that night, sis?
No, they didn't have the tanks out. The tanks came out the night after. But they the tear gas came out. But I was already telling the sheriffs, I guess, that came from Fairfield, like, okay, no, we don't need y'all. Please don't do this. We good. We come in peace.
Right.
We was all on the ground asking Sergeant Potter or Potty, however you say his name, just to, take a fist with us. Let us know that we safe, that our community is okay, that these bad cops is gonna quit killing us. Let us know everything is good. What we see was just happening to them. He would not get out there. He wouldn't tell us nothing. He just kept saying, light they ass up after curfew time. They got 5 minutes to get up out of here. We sat there peacefully. We just kept saying, we come in peace. 3 of the officers left the front line crying because they had to take that code of blue not to do nothing. We better not put your fist up.
It hurt their conscience.
Man, you better not put your fist up with them people. Man, and then the tear gas came out, and everybody kept saying, run. I seen somebody try to pick the tear gas up and throw it back to the police. I just knew I just kept on going. And my leg went boom, and I went, ah! My whole heart just said, you better not fall. You better keep running. Then it hit me again, bow! And you heard somebody screaming, it's burning. I guess they was throwing milk on him or whatever. The dude on the motorcycle was his inside of his helmet. I was like,
wow.
What the? That was my first time ever experiencing. I seen this on TV, not like, what the hell? All of this because we came at peace. It was already 9:30, 9:45, so we been past curfew. You didn't have to light us up for that. All you heard was the windows like breaking. The lady had some kids in her car. They was hitting her windows out. Oh, them police was just out there like they were just retarded, just crazy.
Man, sis, I'm glad that you made it from that encounter, not uninjured, but alive. We were worried for you.
One little leg.
For like
on 3 months.
Worse than that.
Yeah, and
man,
it could have been way worse than that.
Yeah, for the people that behind me got way worse than that.
And sis, on a lighter note, because we're running out of time.
Type of behavior, to speak to that type of behavior of a police station to engage the citizenry with making gestures such as if you don't get up out of here and they out of here after 5 minutes, we light them up.
Yeah, but all we asking for some type of acknowledgement.
Exactly.
He wanted to read something off the paper that was already in the newspaper. He wanted to read something that we didn't want that. We just wanted you to honestly talk to us. Like, what's up?
Yeah.
Well, this half would be half of the Vallejo Police Department.
And man, we're in overtime right now. We're in overtime, so I know Pops had one thing he wanted to get in, but before we fade on out.
What they always want to try to show. This is why they holler gun in the narrative. They want to always show that they're being threatened and they want to put a role reversal like they're victims. And they're not being victimized. We are. So what they do is they always try to make it show that they're being threatened, and the threat is why they pull the guns and shoot. And that is what they try to do in the narrative to make it look as though they're being victimized. And that is a result of it is when they shoot somebody or kill somebody, then they feel justified in what they do, and they want to present this to the general public to make the public think that what they're doing is doing their job and protecting and serving the public, which they're not.
And cousin, and that's probably why
misusing and abusing.
That's probably why the public kind of lulls asleep, and they just assume and they just automatically believe that because it came from a law enforcement official that it has to be true, that it must be true.
Willie had a gun.
Right.
Because the report said it, because the news said it, because the police said it, then you believe that Willie had a gun, and you seen 6 cameras that never showed a gun.
But you believe it because they said it.
You can't fabricate one for.
Exactly.
Is to show a different narrative and show where they are lying in their narrative, and that's a good job that we're doing. We're doing this by not.
Show me how all of y'all felt threatened by y'all lives, where it took everybody standing right there to shoot that man with that gun. Show me the 2 officer cars that was left there before my brother started getting killed. While they sat there,
and cousin, and we know it's not about, like, we know, sister, that their lives weren't threatened. We know that the game is that they're going to put themselves, they're going to create a situation that they can then go ahead and try to use in justifying murdering a man.
Justify asking Darton why he left before they started shooting my brother, then came back to the scene.
Exactly.
After the fact.
And we're going to get into the, and sister.
And still, he could have just helped them and helped my brother and told them don't do that shit.
We're going to leave them with that right there, because we want to hold that for the next show, because we need plenty of time to get into that.
Hi, I'm William Harrison of the new show Pops and Son. And I want to give a shout out to the Secrets of the Rabbit Hole Media Network. You can find them on Secrets of the Rabbit Hole Media Network YouTube channel. And hey, you'll be seeing me and my son later on down the road. That is, if I don't run over him with this Mack truck. It's all good.
Tips on them 10 toes with the power to open and close doors. If ever I should fall or fail, got the lawyer and bail. My mama ain't gonna spend one night in jail. Her blood raw, that's loyalty and royalty. That's bloodline, publishings and royalties. Now peep the line to the double helix in the logo. And on top of the press ons, the bald ego. Like a mix between the Machiavelli and the Migos. Like Steph Curry, I miss no threes or no free throws. It ain't easy being Chester Cheeties like them Cheetos. Yeah, and a nigga be all about them Fritos.
The Secrets to the Rabbit Hole Multimedia Network. This is the Secrets to the Rabbit Hole podcast, hosted by myself, David D. Harrison, co-hosted with my cousin Kori McCoy, with special guest, my cousin Charmel Mitchell McCoy.
Together, we speak the unspoken on police misconduct and provide a platform for impacted families to share their truths. How deep does the rabbit hole go?
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
With that dope composition, frequently send out a frequency of mental transition so that we overstand the devil's wicked transitions. Yeah, that devil slick, went from master to a master's degree. He went from Yale to Harvard to MIT. Most of my niggas ain't got a GED, ain't got that general equivalency, but we